Hey, what's going on? And welcome back to the Step It Up Entrepreneur Podcast. Your host, Tomas Keenan, coming at you guys today. Skipped the office this morning and stayed here at the home office. Just had craziness going on, life, kids, the whole 9 yards, and had a client and a good friend who's staying with us for a couple days. So it kind of just worked out where, and this is one of the beauties of being an entrepreneur, in my opinion. I didn't have to go into the office today, didn't have to go manage the team, that kind of stuff. I could handle my business from the comfort of my own home. And one of the reasons I do this and I set my home up for success as well is so when days like this present themselves, we can just work where needed. And today, I've got a very special guest. We have Mr. Feras Alhlou with us. And Feras is a successful individual. He's got a lot of information and knowledge. He came through the podcast pipeline. You guys have heard me talk about it here before. And I'm really picky choosy with who I allow on this show as far as guests are concerned. They've got to have a compelling story. They have to have a compelling package. They have to be presentable as far as professionalism is concerned. And honestly, Feras, he checked all the boxes. And because of that, because he's done the work, he's put the effort into presenting himself as the expert, as the authority. He's sitting here. I'm assuming you're in California today, sir, but you're sitting across the nation.
San Jose, California. Yes,
love
sir.
it. San Jose, California. I'm here in Dallas, Texas, and we're on this video, the StreamYard recording right now, and I'm excited to dive into some of the conversations with Feras. And sir, like before I go, and we just talked about this, I don't want to butcher your intro and give wrong things and not give you the accolades that you deserve, but welcome. I'm grateful to have you here with us today, and please give us an introduction into who you are and what your specialties are.
Sure. Thank you so much, Thomas, and thank you for the kind words and for having me on the show. You know, in terms of background, as we get older, at least for me, I reflect a lot more than I used to in looking at the last 25, 30 years, life and business. It's all been about change and pivoting. Pivots that sometimes you plan for, sometimes they're unplanned. And a few of these pivots, sometimes they hit you like a ton of bricks. So I'll go back to when I was in college. So I got married when I was in college. Mm-hmm. So that was a change. That was a pivot. Good thing is we've been married for 36 years. Has worked out well for us. And
congratulations.
So thank you. And so that's one thing. And then I studied engineering early on in computer science, and did some serious dishwashing on the side there. So north of Dallas in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Sure.
And then we moved to Florida. That's when I worked in my field as at Home Shopping Network to build their generation, that new next generation, the platform. And then another pivot. Had an opportunity to move from technical to business, to be closer to marketing and to delivery, actually. And I love that part of it. I was doing okay in tech, but I just didn't love it. So once I got into something I really liked, I started to work really hard, and I got a master's in engineering management at the time with the family, and then promotions started to magically appear. When you work hard, things work out for you. Yeah. And then another pivot, got an opportunity to move with the company to Silicon Valley. So it's been about now 25 years here in Silicon Valley. Got into the startup scene, and then the dreaded pivot is when I was told I was about to be laid off. I was a VP in a startup here that raised $96 million, part of the management team that raised a lot of that money, but then the product was ahead of its time, and I was asked to leave. That was really hard. Traumatic event in my life. Took me a little bit of time to recover. Forced into entrepreneurship. Started my first business. A whole lot of pivots into that. Fast forward to 2019. Sold the last business to Dentsu, the global media giant. We had brought that business up to 8 figures, and spent a couple of years with the acquirer. And then took a year and a half to work pro bono for some nonprofits. I was fortunate I was able to do that. And now I'm in my 7th venture, helping entrepreneurs avoid the mistakes that I made in my career.
Yeah. That's, you know what, we have so much alignment there with the last sentence you just said. I've had some successful companies. I've had some that have bombed, right? Just full transparency. And, you know, you're not guaranteed anything when you go and start the next company. You're just not. And I don't care how much experience you have. But one of the things that aligns and resonates with what you said to me was, hey, I want to help others avoid the pitfalls that I have run into myself, or some of the traps that I've fallen into. And that's the whole reason that I built Step It Up Academy, right? It's a coaching mastermind program. I do some on-site consulting as well. I specialize in the small business arena for it because that's where I have my expertise. But that right there is just so much alignment, man. If I can have a conversation with someone, I can give some words of wisdom, some inspiration, hey, if I were in your shoes, I might think about doing it this way. Or, hey, I was in your shoes at one point. This is exactly what I ran into, and this is how I fixed or solved the issue. Maybe you can use some of my experiences to go build your own version of that. If I could help someone by doing so, I'm going to do it all day long, every day. And the other piece that I found alignment with was you were in a role, you were in a position years and years ago, right? And you weren't truly happy with what you were doing. You were there, you were showing up every day. I'm sure you were working your butt off, making things happen as best as possible, but there wasn't true alignment, and that wasn't your true path in life. And things just weren't going the way that they should have. When you made the switch and you changed your position, you changed what you were doing, and all of a sudden the doors start to open. It's kind of funny how that works. And I experienced the same thing. I'll give you a real brief on my story. It's 22 years as a custom car stereo installer, right? Worked on cars for a living. I was the automotive guy who just loved it. Full blown nerd, right? Didn't really leave that, but transitioned into GPS tracking and dash cameras in fleet vehicles. So the telematics space for automobiles.
Yeah.
Worked there. I own my own company for 11 years. We did well with the company, 7+ figure company, 25+ employees, like things were moving and grooving.
Nice.
But it wasn't in alignment with who I am. It was a very transactional business. And it started to burn me out as an individual inside. And I had to listen to those cues saying, hey, yes, I can push forward over here. I can continue down this path, but is it truly going to align with, is it going to kick off the outcomes that I want as an individual, as a human being? And the answer was no. And when I discovered that, when I figured out and gained that clarity, I tell my clients often, clarity breeds decision, right? Mm-hmm. Once we have clarity, now, okay, well, what are you going to do with the clarity? You can either sit here in the suck and continue living it not the way you want, or you can make the hard choice and go down the less traveled path where most people are going to be like, hey, you're out of your mind for leaving what you just left. But now it's in alignment with you, the human, the individual, the entrepreneur. And it, like you said, it's funny how the doors start to open when you truly go down the right path.
I mean, spot on, Thomas. It's it resonates with me a lot. And one thing about, I think, if you're starting a business or if you started and you're struggling, there's some what we call around here at Startup with Feras, we call the black belt principles. One is that passion is optional, skills and sacrifice are not. And it might sound contradictory to what I just said about moving into an area that I enjoyed more. But initially, when you're starting your business, you got to have skills in whatever service you're offering. And obviously, starting a business and growing a business, it requires a lot of hours, a lot of sacrifice. And we'll talk about sacrifice in a bit. But passion, I think, develops over time. Initially, let's say you're amazing in project management and delivery and client interfacing, and you haven't done sales, and you haven't done marketing. Whether you have passion for this stuff or not, you got to do it. You got to bring in the leads. You got to close the deals. You got to pitch. You got to send proposals. So I think sometimes we hear all this stuff about self-care and work-life balance, and these are important. I'm not discounting any of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But to start a business, just like planting a tree, just like planting a garden, there's just a lot of hard work, especially initially. And don't worry as much about passion. Find something you like, of course, something you're interested in. But it's really about the skills, the hard skills, the technical area, that domain that you want to master, and then all the needed soft skills, listening to customers, communicating, empathy, all that great stuff. And then obviously your network. That's part of, in my mind, that's part of your skills to kind of build and grow that network to support your business. So that's one thing that I think a lot of entrepreneurs miss out on, like, I'm passionate for this. Dude, I love your passion. You got to put the hours, you got to put the time, you got to learn this stuff.
Yeah. I agree. And the passion doesn't always mean success either. My first company, I had a passion for it. And going off of what you said, I opened a custom car stereo installation facility. I was passionate and I was excellent at the skill set and the trade required to do that work. But I had no skill set when it came to owning and operating a business. I had no skill set when it came to marketing or sales. If I had a conversation with someone and I showed them what I was capable of, usually it would sell itself, which wasn't that difficult. But the problem for me was how do I get people in the door, which is marketing, right? And I just dropped the ball in all these different areas. I went in with the mentality and the mindset of, hey, if I just build this company, I build a couple of cool cars, this word of mouth kind of spreads in the neighborhood, and all of a sudden I'm making money. And like, that was the furthest thing from the truth, sir. It really was. And it took many, many, many more years of me operating as a professional, as an entrepreneur, as an individual who had a passion and desire to continue learning, as someone who was willing to go hire other people, mentors, coaches, consultants, to give me and teach me and train me on the areas where I was lacking. That was required in order for me to continue elevating.
Spot on. You've built businesses, you've gone through this, and you know it, Thomas. And a lot of the folks out there, if I would mention another principle, is you gotta get advice, and you gotta get advice from people who have been to where you want to go. Because there's a lot of advice out there. It's I think people don't learn for two reasons. They're either too shy to ask, or they're just too arrogant. They think they know it all. But there's a balance there where business is about, a new business especially, is about experimentation. And with experimentation, sometimes you fail, sometimes you succeed, but you gotta minimize. You want to optimize. You want to improve your chances of succeeding. And speaking and getting coaching, getting advice, you can get a lot of free advice these days as well. From those who have been to where you want to go is going to be essential. No one is going to guarantee success. No one is going to give you a detailed map on how to go from here to there, but they can give you guidance, like you said, GPS. They can give you general guidance, and they can share with you common obstacles or the types of obstacles that you're likely to be faced with. So I think I was checking your website, and you have this on-site. That actually caught my eye. Like, wow, you go on-site, so you see the real thing. You see it in action, and then you can, based on your experience, you can share with them what worked for you, give them advice. So I think a lot of entrepreneurs are missing out on seeking advice. And again, I think start first, free advice. Find, do a little bit of work, do your own experimentation, define what help you need in what area, and then come to people like Thomas, come to others, and make sure you when you pay for this advice, you want to get the most out of it, and you got to commit the resources to actually act and implement on what you hear. Otherwise, it's this acquisition syndrome is I got all these books on business planning, I got all these CDs, I got all these YouTube channels, I got these 3 coaches. It doesn't work. You gotta stop acquiring and start implementing at one point.
Yeah, that is so true. Even book readers, people like you said, people who come in like, hey, I'm trying to keep up with Bill Gates and read 52 books a year. Cool. What are you retaining and what are you actually implementing from the books that you read? I'd rather someone read 3 books a year and take action on the information that they're putting into their brain and their mind. Right.
100%. And I have a high goal in terms of a number of books to read, or I listen. But to your point, about a few years ago, I said, after every book, I'm not going to start the next book until even if I took 3 gems, even if I disagreed with the author and gazillion things, there are probably a few gems that if you take and implement the next day, you will see improvement. So yeah, that 100% agree on there. Like, you got to act on, learn, do, and then seek advice.
Yeah. So look, speaking of books here, You're an author as well, if I recall correctly.
Yes. Yeah.
I am as well, right? This is another accomplishment that we've both achieved, and it's something where we said, okay, cool, we've got expertise in this area. Let's spend some time and write a book. I love asking this question to fellow authors. Number one, what was the inspiration for you to write the book? What was the meaning or the purpose behind it? Was it just because you wanted to give great information to people, or were you trying to sell something? And this is just a very transparent question. Or are you looking to sell something on the back end of it? And what was the book writing process like for you?
Yeah, I'll answer that last question. See this gray hair right here? part of it from when my kids were teenagers, and part of it from business. No, so we were in the consulting space, and at that time, so the book was published in 2016, and by that time we were one of the top Google partners in the area of digital marketing and analytics. So basically, if you're spending money on your marketing, we help you make it more effective. We tell you what's working, what's not. So we had, and that was a nascent, that was a new industry. I don't know, maybe less than 10 years old at the time, and we didn't find a whole lot of books on like how to put a strategy and implement it. And so that was, and we were doing training, and I just love helping others. A lot of people helped me along the way. So even like, I don't know, for the last 12 years or so, maybe 15 years, like on an average, I'm speaking to 1 to 2 people a week, just no charge, pro bono, helping people out, because a lot of people helped me. So I was doing this, helping others, those who were maybe earlier on their path. And then we're doing this training, and we have this curriculum, and there's something missing in the market. So that was one of the drivers. And I had a, our team, we had three of us who co-authored the book. It was 600 pages. And we sold 15,000 units on Amazon, top rating. We did really well with that. So it was actually, it helped our business a lot as well. So a secondary benefit of publishing a book in a consulting company, or if you're a coach, I think you can share your expertise. You can have maybe a framework that how you've built and achieved success, and you want to share it with others. And the other thing was, actually, it was a great asset for us when we meet clients, when we meet leads. We would obviously give a free copy of the book. So that was rewarding as well, to see the book help the business. And see, and we asked everyone in the company at the time to give us a quote or contribute to it. So it was really, I felt like it was a company. Yes, I'm a co-author, but the entire team at the time, I think there was about 40 of us at the time, it was our project, and everybody was really proud of the product that we produced.
Yeah. So here's the next question on the book, and then we'll switch gears. Yes, you co-authored the book, but you're one of the authors. Great. What personal wins or accomplishments, or what personal opportunities or doors opened for you once you became a published author?
I mean, if you can get a chance, I think, who was it who said, you don't make money with books, but you can't make money without books. So if you're in product, but especially if you're in consulting, if you're in services, I mean, that shows, it demonstrates your authority. It gives you that authority, almost instant credibility, instant authority. It just, when we used to go to meetings and we would pitch in person, I would take a couple of copies and that just established a whole lot of authority at a different level altogether. When we go to conferences, obviously, if we were exhibiting at a booth, we would have. So I think that's important for businesses. If you haven't, I think prerequisite, make sure you've accomplished something worthwhile. You've added something to humanity that you want to then share with others. It's one thing to go and get a guest writer or a ghost writer and go on ChatGPT these days and get some ideas, and then actually have someone write the whole thing for you, and you're not adding to it. I think that's just, you're not adding anything to this world. Just
Agreed.
Have something, build something amazing, and then share it with the world.
Yeah, I agree. It surprised and shocked me. I had doors that opened up, and which was great. I started getting speaking engagements after the book was published as well, which was great. And that was something that I was after prior, and I was getting no traction in that area. I mean, man, I got information. I know I could help people, but no one is inviting me to come on their stage. And I was willing to go do it for free at this point. And nothing. And the moment the book was published, about 2 or 3 weeks later, I got a phone call and the first opportunity came, which is pretty cool.
There you go.
Yeah. But I had a mentor of mine a couple of years back who I was working with. through the book writing, editing, and publishing period. And this is a gentleman who had published several books of his own. And he gave me a couple of really good key pieces of advice, similar to what you have. You go to an event, you have a booth at a trade show, whatnot, always have copies of your book with you. You go to a speaking engagement, right? Go and have copies of your book with you. You know, if there's 1,000 people in the audience, obviously we're not expecting you to bring 1,000, but, you know, bring 10 copies and sign them all before you get there, and hand them out strategically to people who may be leads or contenders to become leads or whatnot, or prospects. And the other piece of advice that he gave me, and this one has stuck with me, and my book was published in June of 2019. So just a short couple of years after yours. And since then, I always have this with me. I always have a signed copy of my book in my backpack or my briefcase. And I keep it with me at all times. And I've used it mostly on flights.
Nice.
Right. So, I mean, 9 times out of 10, I'm in a first class seat in a flight. It's just, I'm a large human, and I kind of need to from an ergonomic standpoint.
All good. Yeah.
So, one of the things he said,
you've earned it too, Thomas.
Thank you. It's true. One of the things he said is you never know who you're going to sit next to on a flight. And, you know, occasionally you don't speak to the person next to you. And sometimes you have a conversation that lasts a 2 or 3, 4 hour flight. In those instances, if you find it necessary, you hand a person a copy of your book. Right. And I can't begin to even explain to listeners, like, how many opportunities and doors that has opened, how many connections I've made with people who are in amazing industries or high-powered figures in and around their industry. That has been a game changer for me, is having that copy of the book with me at all times. And like you said, it establishes you as the authority. And you don't even have to open your mouth and say, oh, well, you know, I'm good at XYZ, because no, you just hand the book over and people just go, oh, you must know what you're doing.
You wrote the book on X, Y. No, and you know,
sure.
And not everyone maybe is ready to write a book, but I think what you just described, Thomas, is like, for entrepreneurs out there, if you're struggling in sales and marketing, and if you haven't, like, I didn't know anything about sales. I never sold before we started our first business, and I had to learn it from the ground up. Mm-hmm. But what Thomas just described is this, like, this you have to be resourceful. You have to think creatively. A book that I read so many years ago on guerrilla marketing. Like, find ways. If you're bootstrapping, you don't have a whole lot of budget set for marketing, you got to think creatively of providing value to others. So if you're not ready to write a book, you can start a blog. You can start publishing quality, relevant content, not something that you can do in half an hour. But if you produce content, maybe you can put a success story, how you've helped someone else. Maybe you can get a testimonial from the client, and here's the problem, here's how I approached it, here's the solution. Like, you can do short videos. It doesn't have to be high-end production initially. So the idea of being creative in producing quality content, and then being very creative in how you distribute that content, right? So when you go to maybe a local chamber of commerce event, you go to a BNI event, you go to what have you, mention like, hey, I just wrote this article on the specific pain point that you have. I mean, that establishes immediate credibility, even if you don't have a book yet.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. That goes a long way. And I also find that it's evergreen. Not so much that it's repeatable over time, but for instance, blogs, books, podcasts, videos that you upload to YouTube and whatnot, these become digital assets that once you put them on a platform, they are there for good, for the most part.
Yep.
And I'll give you a quick story here. I did a health and fitness challenge a couple years ago in 2020. Did really well with it. And it's pretty controversial. It's called 75 Hard. And I did it. I did well with it. I lost a bunch of weight, and losing the weight really isn't the big point of this 75 days. It's more about mindset and what it does up here for you in a good way. So I do this. I have great success with it. I make some massive changes in my life because of the clarity that was gained from the 75 days of this hard work. And I wrote a blog about it. And let's actually go back. It actually started as a social media post. Hey, and I pretty much wrote a post for 75 days straight, giving updates about my experience from day one all the way through. So day 76, day after, I write a long-winded Facebook post about, hey, these were my experiences with this. This is what happened. Awesome. My book editor sees it and she goes to me, hey, send that to me, please. We're going to add a little bit to it and fine tune it.
Nice.
Okay. So she does so. And she goes and she uploads it as a blog to my website. Don't think anything of it. It's there. Year and a half later, I get an email, and I was working for a company at the time. I get an email to my work email, and it's ABC who wants to get me on an interview for the TV show The Doctors because of the experience that I had with this 75 hard challenge. And like, you can't make that up. Like I that was not my intention. But if I hadn't done the work, right, which is the actual physical work of the 75 days, if I hadn't done the work on the backside and shared with the world my experience, my message, the heartaches, the struggle, the pitfalls, the good, the highs, the lows of my experience, it never would have turned into the social media post. It never would have turned into the blog. The blog would have never been picked up by a big network. And like, I wasn't after that, but that was the outcome that was given because of the work that was the award, I'll call it. Right. And now, from a personal branding perspective, right. And I'm not saying this to impress anyone listening to this. I'm saying this to impress upon the listeners the importance of doing this. Go out there and do the work. Right.
Yeah.
Yes, I can now say that I'm a published author. Yes, I can now say I've been on a network TV show. Yes, I've done the authority that was built because I went in hardcore on the personal brand. And this didn't happen overnight, by the way. This is years and years and years of little tiny bits and pieces here and there, a couple pieces here and there every couple of days. Maybe a month goes by. Hey, here's another piece I can put together. And it's videos, it's written content, it's videos of me talking, it's podcasts like this. This is now, don't quote me on this. I think you're going to be close to episode 130 of the podcast.
Impressive, yeah.
Right. So, no, I'm sorry, 230. Right, I think so.
I think it was.
We're 4 years into this. That's all I know. August is going to be 5 years, so it's been quite some time. There's power in consistency, right? And that there's so many lessons we can learn from that.
Yeah. I mean, we used to say, and it's still valid, content is king. And then being consistent at that. If you don't do like 3 blog posts and then stop doing this, and do it once every 2 weeks, and there are always problems. You as a service provider, you're solving problems for people. Or if in the product space, maybe there's a new release of the product, you can talk about the features and how to customize it. So people are always looking for useful information. And what I want to highlight here is, if you're not into this writing thing or video thing, you got to differentiate somehow. Maybe in your industry, you can get a bunch of certifications, which is going to require you to study and learn and take some exams, and that will differentiate you from the average Joe and Jane. And then if maybe you win an award in your industry, it could be, again, something personal, or it could be something in your industry. And I think what entrepreneurs, I think they miss, when people buy from you, especially if you're starting and you haven't done sales before, people buy from people. So someone's going to look you in the eye and see if you project confidence that you're going to solve their problem. So, and they're buying not just that service that you're offering, they're also assessing if you're credible, if you're trustworthy, if you have experience. So if you're just starting and you don't have the logos, you don't have a lot of customers, that's okay. You have 5 years, 10 years, 15 years of experience in something. So as a business owner who's struggling in sales and marketing, build on everything, like not show off, but demonstrate that you are an accomplished person, and even in things outside of your area. Just show that you are a trusted advisor, that you are, you have confidence. You look them in the eye, say, I'll take care of your issues, and obviously bend over backward to take care of those clients, especially the first few set of clients, because without them, it's going to be really hard to grow the business.
Yeah, that's the truth. So my notes here mentioned, sir, that you hold a 3rd-degree black belt in Aikido.
Yeah, don't believe everything you read in social media. No, yeah. Yes, sir. Talking about hard work and pain and
I want to dive into it for a second, right? Now, I'm not a martial artist. As a young kid, I dabbled here and there, but I never found the consistency. Right. And we just talked about consistency and the power of it, because in my mind, consistency is everything. Right. So you clearly were consistent with your study of martial arts. Awesome. My question is a very pointed question to you: is what lessons did training in the martial art of Aikido teach you that has carried over to propel you in business?
So, and we haven't talked about this before, but we have a video on eight martial arts principles in business. And I'll tell you a couple. You mentioned about habits. You mentioned about what you do on the side, what you do outside of work, especially around your mind and the discipline and the work ethic. All of that actually applies to your life. You're the same person. So that learning from others, for example, you learn obviously from teachers, from your senseis, from your senior practitioners. That's one thing that you can apply in martial arts and you can apply in business. Learning from your peers. When I go to train and train and someone my level, I'm also learning from them. They might do things, the same technique, the same application, the same pin, but they might have done it slightly differently because it's a reflection on their body. And so even when I train with a beginner, a lot of times in our dojo, in our school, we pair the most senior people with the beginners, and you like beginners don't know what's gonna be coming at them, and so they move in a different way. So you have to adjust. So I learn from beginners, and that I think that there's a concept, Japanese concept on that beginner's mind. To have that beginner's mind in business, even if you've been around for 20 years, there are always opportunities to learn from those who are more senior than you, and from your peers, and even from beginners. So that's one clear thing that has parallels in a lot of systems, including martial arts and business.
Yeah, I love it. I think that's fantastic. I really do. So tell me about talk to me about the current venture right now, and what you're doing to best serve and help people.
Yeah, no, thanks. So after all these years and all the scars and all the blood, sweat, and tears, I wasn't sure what to do after the accident. After I took some time off, and then a friend said, "Why don't you write a book about your experience, the ventures that you've had?" And I said, "Well, I've co-authored a book." I said, "Well, maybe do a series of videos," and that's how it all started. And now I have a business with my co-founder Eric, and we have a team with us where we are producing content to help those two types of folks: those who want to start a business and they're not sure how, and those who started and are struggling. And most of our content applies to services and consulting, although the mindset and the business planning applies to everybody. So that's what we're doing. We're producing content on YouTube on our channel, and also we have a daily newsletter. And as of now, it's all free and available and accessible. So feel free to check it out across all the various aspects of the business. And on the average, I speak with 1 to 2 entrepreneurs every week. So back to learning, just listening to what's going on. The younger crowd, they have different challenges.
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of distraction these days. There are a lot of resources, but there are a lot of distraction. When I was starting, we didn't have a lot of resources, but we were focused, I think. So I don't envy the younger crowd now. And then even if you're mid-career or maybe late in your career and you want to pivot and do something else, there's still things for you to learn. So yeah, that's the type of fun work we're doing, and figuring out YouTube and how to crack that nut it's been a pretty challenging to tell you.
I bet. It's one of those things that's constantly evolving and changing, and you got to stay up on it. And I'm sure Google was Google and YouTube, pretty much same deal. But when you guys were working inside of Google, same deal right over there.
Yep.
So let me ask you this. This is more on the personal side of the house. Outside of business, outside of practicing martial arts and keeping the tip of your spear sharp there, what do you do to what makes you excited? What do you do for a hobby? What do you do outside of the professional environment?
Yeah. So there's the tip of the arrow. I think that's relevant to you as well, right? You're into archery.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm into archery and hunting as well. It's another episode, another podcast. But I think my motto is work hard, play hard. So there's no substitute to working hard. obviously there are different seasons in your life. If you just had a kid, and you have 2, 3 kids, and you can't be at work all the time. You have to support at home. If you have aging parents, you got to take care of that. But there are seasons in life where you got to work really hard. So my kids are older now. My wife works. My amazing wife works, and she does amazing work there in social work, and I have a lot of time, so I'm working really hard. At the same time, you got to take care of your body. So I do a bit of hiking around, aside from martial arts, and then I love archery. I do that, and I read. In terms of your mind, intellectually, you gotta be learning, you gotta be reading. So that's really important to me. And obviously, relationships with family. As the kids get older, you gotta be connected. Your friends. So I think, even though when I'm working 70, 80 hours a week, not all the time, some weeks are like that. Some weeks, average week, maybe 60 hours.
Sure.
I still have to find time. I still find time to make sure we have a very nice couple of dinners, because my wife is busy, I'm busy. So I think you got, even though you're working really hard, and I'm preaching for people to work hard, cut down on leisure time, cut down on the me time. The world does not revolve around you and I, right? So even I think people should find time to volunteer, share. So all of that, I think, is rewarding. The physical aspect to stay strong, the mental aspect, and then also the relationship. And then, those of us who also follow a spiritual path, also calming the soul, calming the spirit is important, or just being mindful about things and being grateful. So it's hard to balance all of that.
It is.
But it is important. You can't neglect any of these aspects of life for a long time. It will cost you dearly on the long run.
Oh, do I know? Yes, I will agree with you there. I'm a firm believer that there really is no such thing as work-life balance, because, like you said, depending upon the season, you're going to have to put more time, effort, energy into a certain area. So, like you said, you just had a new child with your spouse. Great, that's going to be your focus for quite some time. Yes, trust me. You just start the new business, you're going to have to focus energy and effort there. You have the aging, ailing parent, you're going to focus effort and energy there. And one of the things that I have failed at miserably, right? And if you haven't figured it out at this point, Feras, I'm pretty transparent. And I'll even call myself out in the BS when I deem it reasonable. I'm also big into extreme ownership. So if I screw something up and I'm aware, I'll let you know. I have definitely flopped on keeping up with relationships, family, friends. A big piece of the puzzle for me has to do with, I'll call it location. I'll call it, that's not the word I want to use. Proximity is the word I like to use. Okay. I'm a born and raised New Yorker. I spent 40 years growing up in Long Island, New York. And 4 years ago, I moved to Dallas, Texas, right? For many reasons. And everyone who's listened to the show before, they've heard them all. I don't want to bore them to death. But I made the move, and I'm very grateful, and I'm glad that I did make the move. However, when I did make the move, life got busy down here real quick. Went through some massive changes. Wound up going through divorce after moving here, and I've got 3 beautiful children of my own, and navigating the waters of co-parenting and lots of career changes. I came down here, started a company, was recruited by a larger one, went to work for them for 2 years, and then went back to doing my own thing after I served them for some time. So lots and lots and lots of changes. And through this craziness and navigating all these changes and thinking that you're handling all of these things, you now add in the lack of proximity to those who I care for, who also care for me. And I dropped the ball when it came to staying up on my relationships with friends and family. And now, you know what? Some of them for the better, right? Because let's just be real. Some people we need to leave behind. We just do. And I'm not saying that's the case for everyone. But there's a couple of relationships, key relationships, that I'm now working on repairing and continuing to foster so they don't go away permanently.
You summed it up really well there, Thomas. And I mean, I've been married for a long time and very, very fortunate. And when at home and you have a really tough day at work, if you don't have a supporting environment, or even with a close friend, or even with maybe even a distant family member, someone that maybe you share, you open up to, like that, we all need that. And there's an issue in loneliness as a society. Like young men and women are not getting together anymore. I think the stats are out there, men more than women as well. Like 30% of men are not in a relationship. And so this loneliness, I think one of the fixes, I'm not a psychologist. I read a lot about this stuff, is go out and connect with someone. Go out, at the gym, everybody has their earbuds on, right? So I think volunteering, no matter how bad your situation is. And I had some, it wasn't always where we had means, and at times we were struggling, but always find time to be of service to others. If you don't have family or friends nearby and you move into a new area, find a cause that is important to you and go out and help. I think I think it was Ralph Waldo Emerson who said, life is not about just being happy. It's about being useful, being honorable, and being compassionate. So when you can go and donate $5 or $10 or go to Goodwill and give them your old sweater or whatever. But if you can also go and do something, whatever you have, whatever knowledge or resources you have, if you can share it with others, that deep connection is, I don't know how to describe it. It's very, very, very rewarding to me before it is rewarding and helpful to the person who's on the receiving side. Yeah, that's working and helping nonprofits. And I'll put a plug here for the Red Cross. I'm a lifelong blood donor. I think I'm on my 107th donation. Just being out there and giving blood, it takes you about an hour and a half, the whole thing, A to Z. You're saving up to 3 lives. Like, it is so rewarding. Not everyone is eligible, I get it, but for those of you who are, so find something that is important to you. If you can't stand needles, don't go there. But find ways to help. I think build and then nurture. I think if you had issues with a cousin or the sister or a brother, pick up the phone and find a reason to maybe wish them a happy birthday and reestablish. Not easy. I hear you. I have my shortcomings in that category as well.
Sure. So one thing is, it's funny we're talking about this because I actually practiced this morning, right? I had a colleague of mine a couple of years ago, and he's very busy, serial entrepreneur, flying all over the country nonstop, home for like 2 days at a clip and then on the road for 3 weeks kind of deal. And I said, hey, Jeff, how do you stay in contact with everyone? Because like you're always checking in on me and sending me a text message like, hey, everything good? Like, how do you get all this done with the absolute craziness that is your life? And he goes, oh, I play the random scroll game at least once a day. Like, what are you talking about? He goes, I open up my contacts on my phone. He goes, I close my eyes, and he goes, I scroll and I drop my finger, and whoever it lands on, I send that person a message. He goes, I do that 3 times in a row. And he goes, I'm not looking for anything. I'm literally just reaching out to connect and check on them as a human being.
Maybe I should do that. Yeah, no. I do follow up with some, but yeah, I definitely, I don't score high in that. The great tip, great way of doing it. Yeah,
it is. Feras, this has been fantastic, man. I truly appreciate you coming in here and having a real genuine, authentic conversation with me. That was one of the phrases that I gave you before we started this today. And I want to thank you for honoring that and showing up and giving and, really just diving deep and sharing some of your experiences. It's been a great conversation.
Thank you so much, Thomas. I appreciate you and appreciate the effort you're putting in to get this great content out. And you have an amazing list of speakers. I listened to some of those podcasts earlier. So yeah, keep up the good work, and really great to be on this podcast.
Yeah. With that being said, where can we find you?
Yeah. So startupwithferas.com, and Feras spelled Feras. So we have the daily newsletter, the daily advisor. Feel free to sign up. And also on our YouTube channel, same thing, at YouTube at Startup with Feras. So yeah, I'd love to hear if you're an entrepreneur and you're struggling, send me an email. Be more than happy to send you some hopefully some guidance, some advice that will help you overcome some of the challenges you're facing.
Yeah. Feras, much appreciated. And for those of you who are listening, go check out Feras, follow him over on YouTube. And this dude's awesome. very, very, very happy with our conversation here today. And I'm just very appreciative of the words of wisdom that you came in here and dropped today, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Thomas. I appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in to the Step It Up Entrepreneur Podcast. Make sure you head over to stepitupentrepreneur.com and make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode of the Step It Up Entrepreneur Podcast.